Dr. Ferrer, we're live. You may begin.
Good evening, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this important virtual town hall on the post-fire impacts affecting schools in the Palisades community. I want to express first my deepest gratitude to Supervisor Lindsay Horvath for her leadership and her dedication to supporting the wildfire-affected communities, and then to all of you who joined us tonight. Our hearts are with you. Our support is here for you. We know the last 2 months have been just devastating and in some ways incomprehensible in terms of all that so many people have had to deal with. I do want to thank LAUSD, our many school partners, and the countless parents and students who played an active role in making sure that our schools could reopen and that our recovery efforts are informed by the needs of students and families. Your collaboration has been essential in this process, and we're tremendously grateful for the partnership. I know that many of you probably joined us tonight because you have concerns about what the recent fires have meant for our health and well-being, particularly for our children's health and well-being. And I know it's so hard in the aftermath of these fires to know where to focus. The wildfires created not only an immediate danger, but lingering concerns about air quality, water safety, and environmental hazards, especially in the spaces where children are spending a lot of their day. We can take the first slide, if that's okay. Brett, is there? Great. I will actually go to the next slide. Public health, we've been working closely. We've met a lot of you in our efforts to really support the recovery process. We've been out there trying to make sure that we were able to give you critical information, resources, and protective supplies for individuals and families as they were returning to areas that were impacted by the fires. We've actually distributed millions of pieces of PPE at this point, and we're still out there at the disaster recovery centers, hoping that we can be as helpful as possible by answering questions, and again, making sure you have this protective equipment if you need it as you're re-entering areas where there's been a lot of impact from the fires. We're also, during this recovery period, we remain equally committed to making sure that you're getting access to good information and the resources that would help navigate a recovery process. I'll go to the next slide. One of the things that we've done is we've created a dedicated wildfire webpage at ph.lacounty.gov/wildfires. As you can see, I'm hoping this is pretty easy for you to navigate. We have information about post-fire air, water, and soil assessment updates, including an interactive tool that allows you to search results by location. We also have on this website health and safety guidance to help families, school staff, and local businesses reduce exposure to contaminants. And we have frequently asked questions that are updated regularly to really respond to the concerns that we're hearing from community members, parents, and teachers. We've been working very closely with academic partners, environmental agencies, government, and local partners to make sure that we're able to conduct testing in the communities. This includes air quality monitoring, soil sampling, and water testing, all designed to assess potential contamination and be used to inform mitigation efforts in communities affected by fires. We know that you're particularly anxious about making sure you have access to this information, and I'm glad to say that you can go to our website where we're posting both the assessments that we know researchers and scientists are doing, as well as once the results are there, we post the results. So again, this is at publichealth.lacounty.gov. Because the wildfire recovery is a dynamic process, we do update the webpage weekly, particularly as new data becomes available. We have a town hall about, I would say, every 10 days or so, where we invite scientists to talk about their assessments, to talk about their results, and to answer your questions. Our next town hall is actually this Thursday. And again, you can get information on our website about how to connect to us for that. Lastly, if you have specific concerns or questions that we don't get to tonight, you can reach out to us via the email contact that's listed on this webpage, and we'll be certain that somebody gets back to you. Tonight's town hall, we can go to the next slide, is designed to offer you an opportunity to hear from some of the people who have been engaged in your communities and at your schools, and to try to answer your questions. Please note that we have live Spanish translation services during our event tonight. Para escuchar en español, por favor, llamas al 1-800-805-1150. We'll start by sharing updates on the post-fire assessment process, what's been tested so far, and how these findings are being used to inform mitigation efforts. Our speakers will also provide some practical advice on steps that schools are taking to address issues related to the fires, including enhanced cleaning protocols, monitoring, and ongoing communication efforts. And finally, we'll be able to spend some time talking about the support services that are available for families, students, and school staff as they navigate this challenging time. After these presentations, which will all be really short, we will dedicate the remainder of our time together to answering your questions. If you'd like to ask a question, you can submit it at any time by typing it directly into the YouTube chat or by commenting on our live stream or on Facebook or X. Our team is actively monitoring the platforms, and they'll bring your questions forward during that portion of our town hall. With that in mind, I'm pleased to introduce Dr. Quick, our Chief Medical Advisor for the LA County Department of Public Health. Dr. Quick brings extensive experience in environmental health and emergency preparedness. She'll provide important information on the post-fire assessment plan, including what's being tested, what early results are showing, and practical steps that parents, school staff, and students can take to maximize their protection when they're in their communities. Welcome, Dr. Quick.
Thank you and good evening. And thank you again for joining us tonight to take time to learn more about the health and safety of our schools following the recent wildfire. I know that for many of you, parents, school staff, community members, there's a great deal of concern about what these fires mean for the well-being of your children and the safety of the learning environments. Tonight, I'd like to provide an update on our post-fire assessment efforts, what we've learned so far, and most importantly, how you can protect yourselves and your families. As the recovery efforts continue and residents return to their regular activities, LA County DPH does want to remind everyone of the potential dangers associated with fire debris in and near the burn areas. Individuals in these areas may face an increased risk of exposure to hazardous substances such as ash, soot, and fire debris, particularly before cleanup phases are completed. As you probably know, there are two phases to the cleanup process. Phase 1 focuses on hazardous material removal. Phase 2 focuses on the fire debris removal. Until both phases are completed, exposure to these materials can lead to physical health symptoms and may pose long-term health risks. Conditions such as strong winds or changing weather can increase the risk by spreading ash and debris over a larger area. As a general rule, the closer you are to areas where fire debris has not yet been removed, the higher potential risk for exposure. This is why we encourage residents in impacted areas to stay informed and follow ongoing public health guidance as cleanup efforts continue. All right, next slide, please. All right. As Dr. Frere mentioned, following the fire, the LA County Public Health worked with academic institutions, environmental scientists, and state and local partners to launch a comprehensive post-fire assessment plan. The goal of this plan is to assess potential health risks in our neighborhoods. Our testing efforts are focused on identifying key contaminants that are known to be present after a wildfire, including particulate matter, which can affect air quality, heavy metals, which may settle into soil or ash, volatile organic compounds, or VOCs, which are chemicals that can pose health risks when inhaled. By gathering this information, we will be able to provide science-based recommendations that support school leaders in making informed decisions about cleaning procedures, ventilation, and other safety measures. All right, next slide, please. So the next section we'll cover is how parents, staff, and students can protect themselves. There are also important steps that families and staff can take to stay safe during the recovery period. First, if your child's school is located near the burn zone, we recommend the following precautions. Minimizing outdoor activities when air quality reports indicate elevated pollution levels, or encouraging your school to use HEPA air purifiers in classrooms to help filter out airborne particles. And if your child has respiratory conditions such as asthma, be sure to follow your doctor's guidance and ensure they have their medication available at school. Next slide, please. So protections at home. We strongly recommend that families use a damp cloth or wet mop when cleaning surfaces to avoid stirring up ash and dust. Wash hands frequently, especially before eating or drinking, to limit any potential exposure to contaminants. When gardening or working in outdoor spaces, wear protective gear such as gloves and N95 masks to reduce exposure to disturbed soil or ash. For schools, we've provided detailed cleaning protocols that focus on safely removing debris and properly ventilating indoor spaces to ensure healthy learning environments. Lastly, I want to emphasize that LA County Public Health is here to support you through this recovery process. Our dedicated wildfire safety page includes updated test results for air, soil, and water. We also have clear guidance on cleaning procedures, ventilation strategies, and other ways to minimize exposure. A contact form is available for anyone with questions or concerns about school safety or any recovery efforts. I encourage you to visit this page frequently as we update the information weekly to ensure you have the latest guidance. In closing, I want to assure you that public health is committed to working closely with school leaders, parents, and community members to ensure schools are safe and students are protected. While recovery can feel overwhelming, please know that there are clear steps you can take to reduce exposure and protect your family's health. Thank you again for your time tonight, your dedication to your children's well-being, and for your ongoing partnership as we continue these important efforts.
Thank you so much, Dr. Quick. Our next speaker is Dr. Gilchek, the Medical Director for the Division of Maternal, Child, and Adolescent Health at the LA County Department of Public Health. Dr. Gilchek will review school-specific guidance related to post-fire cleaning and best practices to promote safety in the learning environment. Welcome, Dr. Gilchek.
Thank you, Dr. Ferrer. I appreciate everyone for making the time to join us this evening and for your dedication to protecting the health and well-being of our students and school staff. I know that for many families and school communities, concerns about safety following the recent wildfires are top of mind. Tonight, I'm going to share important information about how schools can reduce potential exposure to fire-related contaminants through proper cleaning procedures and best practices to optimize the safety of the learning environment. As a reminder, it's important to understand that wildfire impacts can continue to pose risks, including on and around school campuses. In areas closer to the fire zone, schools may be at higher risk for lingering ash, soot, and debris being carried by wind, especially during periods of stronger gusts. And additionally, poor indoor air quality caused by wildfire smoke can impact students and staff, particularly those with conditions like asthma or other respiratory issues. Fortunately, there are clear steps schools can take to reduce these risks and maintain safer spaces for learning. Can you project my first slide, please? And now I'm going to review the key cleaning guidance for schools. Are my slides visible? Yeah. There we go. Thank you. Okay. So first, I'm going to review key cleaning guidance for schools, and I'll divide this into a few different categories. Schools that are reopening or continuing to operate in fire-affected areas should take these important cleaning steps, starting with outdoor spaces, including playgrounds. Regularly inspect and clean outdoor areas, such as playgrounds, sports fields, and equipment, to remove accumulated ash and debris. Rinse down outdoor surfaces with water rather than sweeping dry or using leaf blowers, which can stir up the contaminants. And clean outdoor lunch tables and other surfaces regularly, especially after windy conditions. Can we go to the next slide, please? Next, discussing classrooms and other indoor spaces. Thoroughly clean all surfaces, including desks, tables, and floors, with a damp cloth or mop to reduce dust and ash. Use a mild soap or detergent for cleaning, and rinse surfaces with clear water, regular water, to remove any remaining residue. Vacuum carpets and upholstery using machines equipped with HEPA filters, which capture fine particles. Now, for classroom walls and ceilings affected by soot, you can clean with regular mild detergents, but for a bit more, a stronger or intense cleaning, a solution of trisodium phosphate mixed with warm water, it can be more effective. Always rinse immediately afterward, again with plain water, and ensure proper ventilation while the cleaning is going on. Next slide, please. Third, addressing indoor air quality. Schools should set HVAC systems to recirculation mode to limit outdoor air from entering indoor spaces when air quality outside is poor. Regularly inspect and replace system air filters with those designated as MERV 13 or higher, which are effective at capturing fine particulate matter from wildfire smoke. Consider adding portable HEPA air cleaners in classrooms for additional filtration, especially if the HVAC system cannot support the higher grade filters. And schools should also make sure that they're cleaning the HVAC air intakes to prevent smoke and ash buildup in the ventilation systems. Next slide, please. So finally, discussing water systems. In areas heavily impacted by fire, schools should flush their water systems before reopening to ensure pipes are clear of potential contaminants. Drinking fountains and hydration stations should be cleaned and also flushed thoroughly before resuming use. Next slide, please. In addition to these cleaning protocols, schools should adopt proactive strategies to reduce exposure during periods of poor air quality. Schools should routinely check the Air Quality Index, or AQI, via trusted resources like airnow.gov or the South Coast Air Quality Management District, or AQMD, app. On days with elevated pollution levels in the area of the campus, schools should limit outdoor activities and ensure windows and doors remain closed. It's very important to make sure we're supporting vulnerable students and staff. Schools should take special precautions to protect students with asthma and other respiratory conditions, heart conditions, or other serious health concerns. Ensure that those students have quick access to their prescribed medications if needed, like asthma inhalers, and that staff are aware of emergency response procedures. Schools should actively communicate with parents about air quality concerns, cleaning efforts, and guidance for students with respiratory and other relevant medical conditions. Posting clear signage and sharing information about protective measures can help ensure families feel informed and prepared. For schools in or near heavily impacted fire zones, we recommend working with remediation experts for specialized cleaning, particularly when dealing with fire damaged structures or persistent odors. Experts can also make customized recommendations regarding the most appropriate environmental testing for each school's particular situation, such as assessment of soil conditions on school grounds, especially in areas where debris may have accumulated. So to wrap up my comments, I want to emphasize that LA County Public Health is here to support our schools, families, and workers throughout this recovery process. By following these cleaning protocols and best practices, schools can significantly reduce exposure to harmful contaminants and create safer, healthier environments for students and staff. If you have questions or concerns about your child's school or you need additional guidance, please visit our website, publichealth.lacounty.gov, for resources and updates. All the guidance I've provided is available online in various documents that we've made available. Thank you for your time and your commitment to protecting the health and safety of our students and school communities. And I'll turn it back over to you, Dr. Ferrer.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Gilchick. That was very useful information, much appreciated. I'm really grateful for our final speaker tonight to be able to introduce Carlos Torres, the Director of the Office of Environmental Health and Safety at LASU. Mr. Torres will discuss LASU's efforts to maintain school safety through enhanced cleaning protocols, ongoing monitoring, and how they're communicating with families about post-recovery resources and support. I want to also acknowledge that LAUSD has done a great job holding in-person town halls all across the school district. So thank you for taking time to join us tonight, Mr. Torres. We really appreciate your being here, and I'll turn it over to you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity, Dr. Ferrer. So we can go to the next slide. I've got a lot of information I want to share with you. One of the things I want to discuss is I've divided my my talking points to two things: basically operating schools that they're outside the burn areas, and then the schools that were directly impacted, that were either burned or lost from the fire. So to start with, this efforts to safeguard schools, this is really talking about the schools that remain in operations, that maybe temporarily been evacuated, but are now back in session. So we inspected all schools for ash and soot. So that's all, nearly 1,000 campuses within days of the fire. Enhanced cleaning protocols like the ones that were discussed earlier were implemented, especially at the schools closest to the Palisades fire that had some impacts. Again, focusing on what I heard earlier, all of our LAU Unified schools already had MERV 13 filters in place, which really helped prevent a lot of soot and ash from getting inside buildings. Of course, there were some that was found that we had to clean, but that really had a tremendous impact having those in place already. And we've also provided air cleaning devices or air purifiers in schools around the Palisades areas. And there's an effort right now to see if we can get more so that we can provide it to even more schools branching out from there. All the work that was performed really echoed what Dr. Quick and Dr. Gilchick was saying. We consulted with LA County Public Health, California Office of Emergency Services, Department of Education, anyone we could, just to make sure that we were doing enough. And then, of course, what we normally do is go above and beyond in certain aspects in an effort to really safely reopen those schools and to just to ensure the safety of our students. And then we also conducted additional targeted sampling and screening. That was also done. Next slide, please. Actually, if we can go to the next slide, because I think I can, thank you very much. So for agency cleanup activities, this is really regarding the schools that were impacted or burned in the fire. So we have Palisade Elementary, Palisade High School, and Marquez Elementary School. And so all three campuses were under the Department of Toxic Substance Control program, where they went in and did an environmental cleanup. That's been completed for all the schools. The United States Army Corps of Engineers they finished for two of our schools. Palisades Elementary, they're still working on, but for the other two schools, they removed all the fire-related debris within the footprint of the burn area. They removed the top 6 inches of the topsoil and removed all those destroyed buildings. And because they did that, because they're also working in the area, not just for schools, but for other properties, we requested that the USACE would prioritize the cleanup of those other areas around our schools. Because we can work hard to get our schools ready, but we have less control of what's going on in the neighborhoods around there. Next slide, please. So this is an example of their work. On the left is the before pictures of Marquez Elementary School, and to the right is the afterwards, and that's what shows that they scraped the soil there. We have 3 bungalows there that will be removed, so they're not going to be there in some time. Next slide, please. So this is a plan for schools with buildings that were damaged by the fire. So there's a few steps that we're doing. So like Palisades High School and Palisades Elementary School, there are structures on the campus that that had smoke damage, certainly, but not structural damage. And so in order to return those structures back into use, we will be conducting abatement of asbestos and lead-based paints, obviously removing any ash and other debris in the buildings, removing any soft surfaces that could hold odors, smoke odors, cleaning all building surfaces, including HVAC ducts and the exterior of the campus as well. We'll also conduct environmental sampling in these buildings, including wipe samples, to ensure they're free and cleared out of any fire-related debris. Part of our normal operation when we're doing construction on our sites is to do soil sampling anyways, and so all that will go on. But then there's also a special focus on ensuring that there is no fire-related contaminants as well. So it's additional environmental work that we'll be doing. And so when I'm talking about these campuses, there is possible efforts to, we're seeking additional, what should I say, is we may put on bungalows if the community wants us they want to get the school up and running sooner than before we can actually rebuild the rest of the schools. We're going to support that. And in order to do that, we'll work with the contractors to make sure that any soils on the campus follow our soil removal plan. And what that means is essentially that they're going to safeguard. We're going to assess, and then we're going to say this area here needs to be handled accordingly and go to special places, landfills, etc. All has to be done with the idea of ensuring that we're not going to create any dust hazards, and that we hope that the other properties follow the same as well. Next slide, please. Oh, I didn't mention, you can stay here. We'll also conduct air monitoring to ensure the activities on our campus don't go off campus. So when we're doing that dust mitigation, we're going to make sure that we'll do air sampling, which then gives us to this extra safety measures when students return. The district already had a sensor network of 200 sensors across the district. We call it the LA Unified Know Your Air Network, and we're very proud of it. However, it was a sensor network of particulate matter 2.5, which means it's like really small respirable particulates, which are harmful. However, when we had 5 fires going at the same time, and you had smoke, and it was really overwhelming for not just our systems but other systems as well. We found that, and we were advised by the agencies that just relying on air quality sensors that look at PM 2.5 might not be enough when you're looking at really smoky type of environments. So as such, we've met with our team, and we are working with our vendor to enhance our system to start including newly designed PM10 modules on the campus. And we actually have a plan for the Palisades. They will be the first schools that receive these. Not just these schools that we're rebuilding, or possibly rebuilding, but also the schools that are, that are in near the burn areas, but not in the burn areas directly. And then lastly, we're going to create a program to monitor air quality efforts. You've heard me say a couple times now that I'm concerned about what could be going on in the neighborhood around our schools. And so we're going to do a program to assess, to make sure that there's nothing that's down the street, half a mile or a quarter of a mile away, those activities going on by USACE or private developers, that they don't impact our schools. And so we're going to have on campus monitors to determine that. So, and then next slide, please. So this is the information that I wanted to share with you. It's a little outside my purview, but I think it's something that's important. The LA Unified has an education foundation with resources that are available. This is the type of things that this emergency relief fund was designed for, was for providing direct cash relief for families or for employees who are directly impacted, classroom restoration, mental health and community wellness, supporting community events such as staff appreciations. It's all sort of, it's funded differently. It's an independent 501c3 organization. And so this is something that's available. For more information on this, if you go to the next slide, for more information on those resources and then additional resources that we have for the school district or updates, I'll refer you to school updates at lausd.org and to follow us at LA Schools and at LA Schools West, because in our great West region of LA Unified that these schools are impacted. I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so much. That was a wonderful and very informative presentation, Mr. Torres. So thanks so much for joining us. If you don't mind keeping your camera on, I've got some questions that have come in, and again, reminder people, you could send your questions in through your chat. I've got some questions for you, and I know that everyone would be happy to see if they can get answered. And these are questions really, I think they all relate to schools that already reopened. So one question is, what steps are being taken to ensure that the carpets, curtains, and upholstered furniture in the schools are free from smoke residues?
Great question. So it's a two-parter for us. Essentially, the schools that were in the burn areas directly, any soft surfaces, it's just a non-starter. All that's being ripped out for sure. For schools, the other schools, there was a cleaning that was done. Some of the rugs were changed out. That was a great effort by our maintenance and operations team, and essentially was a lot of cleaning and assessing to determine whether or not there was any more smoke. You can smell if there was, and so we've got a lot of good feedback that there isn't any longer any smoke smell. Our goal is not to have students in smoky, smelling classrooms for sure. That's an impact.
That's great to hear. I think there are a few questions, on sort of the things that are not easily cleaned, like upholstery and curtains and carpets. There's also a question about, did you check for, and do you have any concerns about fire-related damage that might have impacted the school plumbing systems or the drinking water? And again, I think this is questions for schools that are opened or gonna reopen, don't need to be rebuilt.
Looking at the guidance and all the schools were assessed mostly for ash and soot. I don't think there were any. We're not aware of any impacts to our water systems. Most of our systems are underground, just like most plumbing. So we didn't really see any issues with that. Obviously, there'll be a lot of plumbing issues with the schools that are going to have to be rebuilt. So that's going to be a totally different situation. But no, plumbing hasn't really been. We haven't seen any impacts to our plumbing systems at the other schools.
And I think just one more question for
Sure.
you, and then I've got some questions for our other speakers. Are there, and I think you touched upon this around the schools where there's debris removal and there'll be construction, but for the schools that are open, are there, and that are in or near the burn areas, do you have any additional air quality monitors that are being installed nearby? Oh, and I see there's one more question for you after this.
Okay. I'll go back, first of all, I want to go back really quick to the water issue. There was, DWP had called a do not drink order that some of the schools were under for a while. I know you're aware of that. They are no longer. It was a lot of testing that had to take. It wasn't by us. It was by DWP.
Water board, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So there was water that was provided. So there wasn't any direct impact other than we were under do not drink order, which has since been rescinded. So your other question regarding—
The other question is, how are you monitoring, given that some of the schools are close to burn areas or areas where a lot of debris is being removed, and I'm gonna raise in particular a question, is Palisades Charter High LAUSD, or are they an independent charter?
They're an independent charter, but they received their charter from LA Unified. So
Okay.
yes.
So there's a general question about this air monitoring
Sure.
that, is what are you doing in the schools that are open? And then there's a specific question because apparently the entrance to the fire debris recycling site on Temescal Canyon Road has resulted in some dump trucks that are standing in front of Palisades Charter High School, and they're wondering who's monitoring there.
Right. So with regard to the air monitoring for open schools, so I talked about our Know Your Air network, which is one piece, right? But there are other ones, like the ones that were referred to, Air Now, certainly. There's like literally 5 or 6 that we rely on, and we look at those. And my team provides updates to me every day about air advisories based on the South Coast Air Quality Management District advisories. But that's for when they forecast something, right? During the day, we're also looking at those various dashboards for AQI, for PM 2.5, ozone, PM 10, whatever it might be, to see if there are any issues. Sometimes they spike, but a lot of times it could be something it could literally be a little bit of dust blowing up. But my team they look at that and we'll call the schools if we see any abnormalities, or we will send staff out there when we do. A lot of times there might be just a car fire or something like that we respond to. Any abnormal, no matter what the cause is, we actively look at that. I'd have to look into the Temescal Canyon aspect of that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with the area, and it's right by the school, but I don't know that particular issue.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I think it would be helpful to the person who asked if maybe you wouldn't mind following up on that, just because their request is that can that fire debris site be moved, or is there some way to mitigate having all those trucks lining up?
Oh, I see.
In the charter school as they're bringing their debris. So I will check as well, but I think you'll probably have better luck, Mr. Torres, checking because it's a school that you've actually been working with.
Sure. I can say this about that is, our efforts with Army Corps of Engineers, they are doing, and they're doing such a tremendous job getting more and more properties every day. They have more and more crews, and so that means with more and more crews means more and more trucks, and that's really good right now, because when we are in a position to finally have students back on some of those properties, they're going to be far removed, hopefully, and been doing this in other areas. So the issue that's described by the person that asked the question about Temescal Canyon, I'm hoping that by that point, not just hoping, but we'll have assurances that it's not going to be that way when we have students back in session. That'll be something that we have to check up on.
Okay, that would be great.
Yes.
And thank you so much. Dr. Quick, maybe maybe I'm just going to go to you just as a follow-up, because we do have a question from someone who's wants information on exposure in real time to the air, and is looking for more than an AQI measurement.
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. And let me talk just a little bit about what goes into AQI and what other information is available out there for some people maybe that are listening that are not quite sure what an AQI is. So the AQI is a measure of air quality that we use sort of across the country. There are various places you can go to get that AQI. You can look at airnow.gov. You can go to the South Coast Air Quality Management District to see what the AQI is. That can be used year-round. It can be used if there's any potential wildland fire smoke impact, but that only measures certain components of air quality. And there's other things that are being measured related to the fire that may be important and that people might want to access. So on South Coast Air Quality Management District's website right now, there is a map where there is data coming in from stationary monitors that have been placed to monitor some other components of air quality related to potentially related to fire and fire cleanup. And so that's the best place to go to that. You can link to that from the county site, or if you go in, you can look at the South Coast Air Quality Management District into their data related to the fire area, and their stationary monitors on a map that you can click on to see a bunch of different components of air measurement outside of what goes into the air quality index.
That's great. Dr. Quick, if I could just stay with you for a sec. And I think this is a hard question. I appreciate the person who sent it to us. They want to know, since wildfires are a public health issue, what's being done so that these events don't repeat themselves?
Great question. I think that is a very, very wonderful question, and a lot of different ways that we could kind of talk about that. One thing that I think that's important related to individuals right now, and particularly and preparing your family to potentially respond to and or protect yourself in the event that this does occur again. The preparedness component of making sure that folks are ready to respond and follow guidance and or protect yourself if the air quality is bad. One thing I'll point back to is precautions for air quality can be year-round. That may be because we unfortunately experience another fire close to us. There can be fires in other parts of the country, including in Northern California, and we might have smoke impacts down here. So following the guidance related to air quality, and that's knowing where to look for that. Generally, it is the air quality index and particulate matter when there's a wildland fire event that may affect air quality. So knowing what that is, taking precautions in general. If there is impact and the air quality is poor based on an AQI or high particulate, the best thing to do is reduce exposure and not be out in that. As far as the bigger question related to what is everybody doing for this, to prepare for future events or to prevent future.
I think it's a prevention.
I think that's a topic that I think is a larger discussion about what we do in this sort of urban wildland like interface, and one that I think that we are all looking at trying to get answers to prevent this in the future and respond to.
Yeah, I mean, I'll chime in a little bit, and then, of course, anybody can. I mean, hardening our homes, accepting the fact that some of the places where there's lots of people living are more likely. I mean, the new maps came out. Everyone should go and look, see where you are. But there are, pages and pages of advice on how to make it as safe as possible if you do live in a home in an area that is prone to being at risk for wildfires. I think all the work that we're doing in I think conjunction with so many of you, so many of our partners at LAUSD, to really address climate change, because climate change has an impact on the number of wildfires we have. We can't really separate these issues completely. And work on cooling our neighborhoods, work on paying attention to water and access to water, and not wasting water, work that we all do on reducing exposure to contaminants. All of this helps us on really helping to prevent fires. But I do think I love that this is a public health issue, because it is a fundamental public health issue about safety and having communities that are safe. But it's also a collective issue for all of us. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about public health, is there's very little we do by ourselves. We are constantly in partnerships. And I want to acknowledge a lot of the work that LAUSD is doing around making sure that their campuses are also places that really pay attention to the environment and to promoting fire safety as a preventive measure. But thanks so much for that question. Dr. Gilchick, if you don't mind, I'm going to jump over to you. I think I recall that you're a pediatrician, so I'm going, am I correct on that?
Technically, no.
Oh, okay.
Public
I know
health and
you-
preventive medicine. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Internal medicine. We have, but I know you work a lot with young children and school-age children. We've got a lot of great questions that came in, or a few great questions that came in from parents around student and staff well-being. So I want to start with family well-being. What steps can parents take if their child is experiencing sleep disturbances or nightmares or anxiety related to the fire? We had hundreds and hundreds of children that were evacuated, really thousands of children that were evacuated and witnessed fire being very close to them, or witnessed the aftermath as homes burned, schools burned, daycares burned. What's your advice to parents?
Oh yeah, thank you for that. That's such an important point, and I'm really glad that we're touching on that. It's a whole topic area I wanted to make sure we didn't miss. So yeah, the first thing I'll say is we have quite a few resources specifically about stress, mental well-being, mental health, grieving. People have had quite a lot of loss related to this, both for adults and children, on our website. So please feel free to browse. If you go to publichealth.lacounty.gov and our fire-related resources, if you specifically look under school resources, you'll see quite a few different websites and documents that can describe quite a bit what we can do to help our kids. But yeah, I mean, this is traumatic.
I think you want to give like three.
Oh yes,
parents can do.
I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know we have a lot of resources,
Yeah.
but people probably want to just hear from you.
No, absolutely. So I think the first thing is, if you're a parent or guardian of children, make sure you're taking care of yourself as well. You know what they say on the plane, make sure you put the mask on yourself first. And, if you're taking care of yourself, you're feeling well, you're calm, you're presenting a model, a role model of sorts, and that will help calm your children. If you see that your kids are demonstrating or experiencing some sort of, behavioral changes, which may very much relate to the trauma they've experienced. A lot of times, younger children in particular, right, may show their feelings through behavior more than being able to communicate verbally. First of all, that's that's normal. So don't be surprised if you see that. But some of the things you can do is to, talk very openly with them, ask them about their experience, ask them how they're feeling about this. Take the time to correct any sort of misinformation or misunderstandings they have. Make sure you're communicating with them in the language that's appropriate, right, for their age range so they can understand, right? every kid's going to ask, where do babies come from? And you're not going to say the same thing to a 4-year-old that you're going to say to a 12-year-old, right? So the same thing here. And don't hesitate to ask for seek professional help from your child's pediatrician, perhaps referral to mental health counseling or professional if that's indicated, if you're really that concerned. I'll give you one number really quickly. There actually is a national disaster distress helpline that is maintained by SAMHSA. That's the Federal Bureau for Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services. The number is 800-985-5990. And they specifically will do, give disaster distress counseling via the phone. So, whether it's for you, your loved one, your child. Finally, I'll say this is certainly relates to schools as well, because our education professionals are, often trained in this type of stress recognition, and they can help immensely. And sometimes they see things in the school setting that might not be visible, right, outside the school or in the home setting. So the same thing, children of every age in school should be encouraged to talk about this, could even be incorporated into classroom conversations, could be incorporated into classroom curriculum, right? All the STEM classes in particular, there's a lot to learn, a lot to talk about related to fires. Also, more of the extracurricular and artistic areas, art, music, theater, are great. If your kids are already involved in that, that's a great way to help process emotions, feelings. So I think that I'll just close by saying this: be very, very optimistic. The vast majority of children are very, very resilient, and they can recover from this trauma and grief that they're dealing with. As long as the adults around them are attentive to their needs. So I hope that that's helpful with some concrete suggestions.
I think that was great. We have a couple of more questions. Mr. Torres, I'm gonna go back to you. One is, are outdoor walkways and playgrounds being regularly monitored for either lingering debris or new debris that might float into your outdoor spaces?
Well, I'm going to presume we're talking again about operating schools.
Operating schools,
Yeah.
yes, thank
So,
you.
yes, that most certainly, we're not seeing a lot, there have been some dust warnings, hey, they're predicting some dust warnings a couple weeks ago that fortunately didn't really come to fruition. But our staff that are at the schools are actively looking for things like that. So yeah, it is being done. We're not seeing it, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't remain vigilant.
I think the question is, are you checking, or do you have a system in place to be checking outdoors on all the schools that are open? All the schools that are open that are near the burn area.
Sure. So there's a couple ways that's being done. It's being done at the school level, by custodial staff. It's being done with our maintenance and operation folks who were partners in cleaning the actual school. So they're doing those assessments. And then my team, we're doing responses. We're checking in on some of the schools. If there's any issues that they happen to be in and around those neighborhoods, we're checking in to see. But it's really more of a holistic approach of at this point, as we get removed from that event, we're still dealing with the issues closer to the fires. But the schools that were evacuated, that are now reopened, a lot of normalcy has happened, and so we're not seeing any ongoing effects. But my team is still they're out there every day, not just for those schools. We have 900 other schools that we're dealing with as well, but we definitely have a sensitivity to supporting the schools in the Palisades in any way we possibly can.
One more question just came in that also we could use your help answering, Mr. Torres, is Will any schools need to have their insulation removed that were near the burn area? So again, this is not schools that burned down.
So we haven't seen any evidence of any issues with insulation. We have had some independent assessments, and none of them have shown that there have been any impacts thus far. We have some preliminary data. We're hoping to be able to share soon some final data with that. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen any impacts or any recommendations so forth from our third party. Certainly not from internal our internal sources with regard to any sort of insulation. Again, having MERV 13 filters in place already before the fires and during the fires, I think was really helpful.
Oh, thank you. That was a great response. Dr. Quick, I'm going to go to you just for the last question. And I want to again thank everyone who submitted questions. I'm going to try to combine a few questions here, but what steps should parents take to clean things like car seats, strollers, backpacks, lunch boxes, school supplies? And again, I think this is both from some folks who have gone back into buildings, schools that were closed but didn't burn down, and then were able to pick up some of the belongings. And I think some of it is from people who were at home in areas adjacent to the burn, where, I mean, so they still have all of this equipment, but they feel like there might have been exposures.
Yeah, great question. And we'll point out we have a lot of guidance on our website, and I'm going to go through some of the things to think about for different types of objects. So I'm going to start with outside. If you have school-aged kids or any kids that are doing a lot of touching of things and like directly into the mouth, important to just wash off equipment that can be washed off. And that may be like outdoor play equipment or like mobile bikes, scooters, anything like that. Good idea to just rinse those down. That's a great way to, potentially get anything that's on there off. We have a whole set of guidance out there if there's visible ash and soot. So that's a whole different cleaning sort of pathway to go down with proper personal, like protective equipment and so forth. I'm not going to really cover that right now. I'm going to cover these other objects that may have something on it, and folks are concerned that there's some level of contamination that's maybe slightly visible or not visible. Anything that can be washed, like a canvas backpack or clothing, let's say there's a sweatshirt that may have been in a classroom, those can all be laundered. So that's a great way to get that through the laundry. Surfaces such as a table, walls, pencil cases, things like that that can be wiped down. Those are things that can be wiped down with a wet cloth and sort of cleaned off that way. Things, let's say you're in your home and you've got children's play equipment, some that can be wiped down, wash the things you can. If you've got something like a plush stuffed animal that has any residual smell of smoke or something on that, if it's not washable, that may be something that you need to replace. So those are some of the general guidance components of that. We'll also touch on for some of the things like, I'm trying to think another thing that might come up. Anything that's like an electrical, like a toaster or so forth, that we're getting a little bit outside of the school thing. Those are things that you can wipe down, but of course can't wash. If there's any significant ash contamination or soot on that, that may be something that you look at replacing. But in general, things that are porous material that are washable, go ahead and wash those. If it's something that's a harder surface that you can wipe down and clean that way, that's what you want to do. And err on the side of cleaning frequently. If you're living in an area that's sort of adjacent to where some of these cleanup activities are going on, and or if you're seeing after some windy weather that there is more soot and ash around, that would be a time to sort of clean some of that outdoor equipment and just make sure that kids, when they're coming in, are washing hands frequently to remove anything that might be there.
Yeah, that's super helpful. Just like for us, a lot of folks are asking about testing and when should I test and what should I test? There's some basic principles here. One is you want to minimize the chance of ingesting, inhaling, or coming into physical contact with debris, fire debris, ash, or soot. So, that's pretty simple. And It gets us to things that can get washed, things that smell like there's smoke residue, and then there probably is smoke residue. So you've tried cleaning something, but it still smells. You could try cleaning it again, but if it's still smelling smoky, then it might be something you're going to need to replace. I think for young children, one of the most important things we say is making sure that people are washing their hands frequently, particularly before meals, and making sure that people are not tracking into your home from the outdoors the residue of any smoke, ash, or ash, soot, or debris, which means, really implementing take your shoes off. If you've got pets, wipe their paws, because until all the debris is removed from all of the parcels, and again, there are about 15,000 parcels that have burn fire debris on them. This fire debris can, in fact, continue to move around. So being cautious, taking steps, the closer you are to areas where there's been a burn, the more steps you should continue to take until that fire debris has been removed. But I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I want to particularly express our gratitude to Mr. Torres, who has not only to fulfill our request for someone to help us from LAUSD, but is spending a lot of time at the schools. So we appreciate everything you're doing, and please be sure to contact us if you need